We're at Fujifilm X Summit 2024 in Tokyo, the home of Fujifilm. I'm here with Justin. So Justin, you're from the global product planning team. So you're involved in the R&D, the brains behind the X100VI.
Yeah, I'm involved with all the cameras going forward, yes.
That's awesome. Lots of dangerous questions. I should probably try not. That's all right. We're talking about the X100VI today. It's out in the open, public here. Now, my first question is: there is only so much you can change about this camera before it starts losing its identity as an X100 camera. Would you say that was a key consideration in the design of the 6?
I would say it's a very key consideration of the design. When we started looking about putting an IBIS unit in here, the size of the IBIS unit became very critical, right? We had to develop a new IBIS unit, and it actually increased the size of the camera by 2 millimeters, right?
Wow.
But 2 millimeters is very small. So we figured it was enough of a sacrifice to do it. But when we look at every aspect of this camera, if we're going to change something, the first thing we do is, what's it going to do to the size and the shape of the camera? If it makes it bigger, it's very hard for us to do that. So this form factor, this size, is very critical to us on this camera.
First impressions, like someone picks this up for the very first time, the first thing they notice is, oh, it's very similar to the X100V. At least on the outside, because I noticed one little sneaky thing. I wouldn't call it sneaky, more like I noticed the flange distance, or correct me if I'm wrong, the focal plane seems to have shifted a little bit. So has the tripod mounting thread. I presume it's a bigger change internally than it is externally.
Definitely. I mean, you got to remember adding that IBIS unit in there. We need that space to make things work because we're moving the sensor around now, and the electronics required to do that need more room. And also the way the screen sits flush on the back, that's part of it too. So with that design change, on the earlier versions, not the V, but the T and the F, the screen actually sat off the back of the camera, right? So that is all sort of moved into the camera now, and that's why it's pushed it forward and why the tripod screw, yes, is closer to the front of the camera.
So in fact, it wasn't the easy way out, making it similar. In fact, it's actually created more problems for the R&D team to solve.
Yes, yeah, if we were willing to say we can make the camera bigger, yes, we would have no problems. We could have an IBIS unit in it, we could do all these things, but that's not a consideration for this camera. The size, the form factor is very, very important to us, and we want to maintain that on this camera.
Bit of curiosity behind the design process. Like, where would the team draw the line between what stays the same in terms of maintaining tradition and what gets innovated upon? Like, where's that line drawn?
That's a really good question as to where the line's drawn. It's going to depend upon the product, I would say, right? So if you take a camera like X-T4 to X-T5, right? We've gone, because of the X-H2 cameras, the 2S and the H2, those cameras are more video focused and are more hybrid focused. It allowed us to make the T5 more stills focused. So really it kind of depends on the camera and the system and where we are and what we want to do and what we feel like the user base is for that camera and who wants that camera. So the analog dials suit themselves much better to still photography. In a video setting, they make it a little bit more tricky to use the camera, right? Because when we put a shutter speed dial on the camera, how do I now override that in video mode?
Exactly.
Because it's very easy to switch to video mode, but now my shutter speed is completely wrong.
Exactly.
I need something different for shooting motion. So it depends on the product, I would say.
That brings me to another curious point. What are your thoughts about video on the X100VI? Because this is, let's put it out there, it's not a video camera, it's not a video-focused camera, but it can shoot some pretty good video. Yeah. It has f-log2, it can do 6.2K up to 30p. What was the thought process behind it? Is it because it's there, might as well give it out there as a convenience factor to the user kind of thing, instead of, say, making it not possible to shoot video on this through software?
Exactly. I don't think we ever want to limit what a user can do with the product, right? We're not hurting the still photography function by allowing it to do the 6.2K. That's not affecting what the stills capability is at all. So at that point, we're not going to limit it. Why should we limit it? Because there are people, there are creatives that might want to use this for their, it's an everyday camera carry. You know, I carry this camera almost all the time. And so to have the ability that if I see something and I want to do a short video clip, I don't need to go grab a different camera. I can do it with this camera. I think that's a really powerful thing, is that it's unlocking potential. It's allowing a user to choose how they want to use the product. I think that's really important.
One thing I noticed about this line is it is that one X series model that's reached the mass consumer more than any other X series model. In the sense, it's been associated with being trendy. It's a very fashionable camera to be carrying around. So who exactly was this camera designed for in terms of the consumer? Is it the professional photographer? Is it the average Joe? Anyone?
I would say if we go back to the original X100, so we have to go back now, I'm going to say, 13, 14 years ago it was designed. And so the concept there actually was to have a small camera that could make very big pictures, right? And in the film age, there was lots of cameras like a Context T2 that oftentimes a professional threw in their bag and it was their backup camera or their walk-around camera. I often refer to it as my sketchbook.
Like
right?
there's a camera for work and there's a camera for fun.
For fun, exactly, completely. And I think this camera has become sort of the spiritual successor to some of those film cameras, right? And so this to me is a fun camera. This makes photography fun again. And we find, at least in the North American market that I'm most familiar with, that professionals, no matter what camera system they might use from day to day to make their money, they oftentimes own one of these. And this is their fun camera. This is their play camera. Hey, I'm traveling. It's my everyday carry camera because I can throw it in my jacket pocket, right? And even a suit jacket, I can throw it in the pocket and off I go.
Exactly. I always say it's the one camera you can pull out today in public without looking out of place as like someone who's here to work, so to say.
And especially like the silver model, right?
Exactly.
It looks like a film camera. I've had many people many times on the street come up to me and say, hey, cool film camera, right? And I just gotta go, yeah, great, thanks, and you know.
With a big nice screen on the back.
Exactly, yeah. If they don't see the back of it, they have no idea.
Exactly.
So they'll see me working or they'll see me out photographing and they have no idea that this is they think it's a little old film camera.
That actually segues us perfectly into the last question. If I'm stepping on a tail here, you can just hit the kill switch. Okay. But since it's a fun camera, it's associated with being fashionable and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Were there more colors or materials considered in the design process? Because it's available in black and silver, mm-hmm. which we're familiar with the X100 series. Perhaps a color we've never seen before, or more playful color, or perhaps something titanium like the X Pro series we've got behind us here.
I mean, what I would say is, what color would you be interested in?
I don't know why the first color that popped in is hot pink, but let's not go there. But like maybe like a subdued shade of blue, perhaps, or a darkish blue, gold. Copper? Just thinking out loud here.
No. And I would say all those things have possibilities to them. And it's really just, for a camera, there's a certain sense to this camera that we have tradition. And the looking back to the heritage, if you go to our camera museum in Fujifilm Square in Roppongi and see some of the cameras, some of the lenses, they're very traditional look to them. So the silver and the black are very much traditional colors. But, who knows? Anything's possible.
Exactly. I'd just like to point out one last thing before we end this. We are filming, in fact, on an X100VI right here with the Reala Ace film simulation. So this entire interview was filmed on the newly launched X100 X100VI. That's the official way to say it.
Yes.
So just for the record, it's X100V, X100VI.
Correct, yes. X100V, X100VI.
Thank you so much for your time today, Justin.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.